Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Rowett, and I'm the Director of Admissions for CRCC Asia's North American office here in San Francisco. And I wanted to welcome you to the Parent Forum for this webinar series. Today, we'll be just going through CRCC Asia's programs. And during this American office here in San Francisco, and I wanted to welcome you to the Parent Forum. And during this presentation, feel free to answer or ask any questions possible. But to give you a brief overview of who we are, CRCC Asia has been connecting students in the US with China for over 10 years. We were founded in 2006, and basically we started our first program in 2008. And for these programs, we have connected more than 5,000 plus alumni with host companies in China. International experience has become more and more important for every college student for both resume building as well as professional and personal development. To give you a brief program overview, our programs do run in the cities of Shanghai, as well as Beijing, as well as Shenzhen. And during these programs, we do give extensive training to all of our interns during the pre-advising stage, during the advising stage, and of course, while the students are in China. After the programs, they are also able to join our alumni networks. We do place students in over 500 different China. These host companies range from domestic Chinese companies to large multinational companies. We're also going to be going over health and safety, as well as how to help your student prepare for their trips in China. In terms of what's next, we'll also cover how your student can apply to the program. And of course, if you do have any other questions, we'll hope to answer them in the frequently answered questions section. CRCC Asia, as I was saying, has over 5,000 program alumni since 2008 and currently partners with over 45 universities. We run study abroad programs as well as faculty-led trips for these universities who are basically trying to connect their students with the growing economy in China. We have also collaborated with different governments, including the Australian as well as the British government, to provide scholarships as well as programs for CRCC Asia applicants and students. We do present at national conferences annually, including NAFSA, the Study Abroad Conference, and we're actually the winners of the Cathay Pacific China Business Award and the British Business Award, both in 2012. CRCC Asia has continuous enrollment, which means that we do have programs that start on any day, basically, of each month. So we do have 15 industry sectors, which include finance and accounting, as well as business, which are some of our most popular sectors, as well as some different sectors, including NGOs, charities, and nonprofits, if a student has a more liberal arts background, as well as sectors including everything from art gallery placements, if a student is more interested in media and creative industries, all the way to sectors like engineering and more technical sectors like civil engineering, etc. We are currently in 3 major Chinese cities. Again, this is in Shanghai, Beijing, and Shenzhen. And to give you a brief overview of each of these cities, Beijing was basically the royalist capital and the imperial capital of China since the early Yuan dynasty. And Beijing is actually still the seat of the government for China. So Beijing is a great place for legal placements or general business students who are looking to get their feet wet in China itself. Shanghai is more of the center of the financial markets in China, and Shenzhen is actually right on the border of Hong Kong. So students would actually be flying into Hong Kong and then completing their program in Shenzhen, which is the first special economic region of China. And because of that, there's a lot of foreign direct investment moving through Shenzhen. Our programs run 1, 2, or 3 months. We also do have a program that runs for 3.5 to 4 months, which is a full semester over the fall and spring semesters, with our partnership through East China Normal University in Shanghai. We have over 10 different program variations. Like I was saying, we have a study abroad program, but we also have programs that include travel aspects, like the picture above where we're showing the Dragon Trip, which is a 21-day backpacking trip after the internship is completed. We also have programs that include the intensive Chinese Mandarin language lessons, as well as programs that include intensive business and finance, as well as digital marketing and coding classes as well. Now, a lot of parents do ask when I talk to them about just why pay for an internship, right? In terms of an internship, students always get a competitive advantage when job hunting, especially if their student has worked in China. You will develop a lot of different soft skills, including teamwork, initiative, and communication through going on our program, as well as just be exposed to different cultures and environments. Why international experience is important is a question that we do get asked here a lot of the time, but in the recent news, we always hear how China has basically been taking over the global economy. So China has become extremely important just in the past 10 years or so, just as a major economic trading partner, which is what CRCC Asia has really focused on building. We were founded as a company that wants to get CRCC Asia applicants and students who come from a Western background, basically Chinese experience and business acumen within China. To add to that, we also have the ability to work with a wide variety of people. We do always, as CRCC Asia is an international program, we do always provide an English-speaking supervisor. However, of course, your son or daughter will be working with other Chinese citizens and other Chinese nationals, which means that they will be forced out of their comfort zone. This program also forces students to become more culturally aware just through interacting through different environments and also through basically just living in China. Although China is an extremely safe and very easy place to live, it does come with its challenges. And the majority of our students do find that language is, of course, one of the primary challenges in communicating with either their coworkers or just in the environment around them. But here at CRCC Asia, we make sure that everything goes according to plan, which means we do have program management staff 24/7 to help your son or daughter out. We also gain understanding of international business practices and complexities through internships through CRCC Asia, which basically means that we have supervisors sit with our interns through all types of scenarios, as well as formulate competitive, interactive, intern action plans before their internship even starts, which means the student will know exactly what job description and what role they're going to be partaking in prior to their trip to China. In terms of what CRCC Asia offers, we do offer a one-on-one career advising session in which we look over resumes and we advise students on how to improve their resumes for specific sectors. We also handle all pre-departure materials and all program inquiries in our local offices. For the North American regions, it would be through our office here in San Francisco, which means that all students who are looking to apply to our programs, all they would have to do is submit an application on our website. And of course, we will be reaching out to them within 2 to 3 business days to schedule an advising session. In terms of what we do on the ground on a more day-to-day basis, we also provide all pre-departure materials, which includes visas. We handle all visas in-house for CRCC Asia. And we do also have a lot of experience in getting the correct visa. A lot of Chinese students who are studying abroad in China are either going to be on the X2, which is the student visa supplied by a Chinese university, or the L visa, which is for tourism. However, CRCC Asia's programs, the programs do require students to be on either a cultural or business exchange visa. So these visas are either the M or the F visas. Will provide the student the accurate visa for them to work with in China. This generally means that for visas, we get 10-year multiple entry visas for students, which means that they are more than welcome to leave and enter China as many times as they want. We also have a business development team in China that basically reviews all student profiles and of course gets back to us with a specific placement. During these advising sessions, which function as both an interview as well as a way to learn more about the student, these advising sessions, we really are trying to get a clear and accurate picture of career goals, goals for the program, as well as why this internship might be important to the student. For these specific advising sessions, they generally take 15 to 20 minutes, and the real goal of this is to take notes on the students' interests to pass them off to our China teams. We do have around 10 staff in each of our China offices who are there to basically place students and maintain networks with all of our 500 host companies. This means that the business development team will be reviewing files, and then, of course, clarifying with our teams here in San Francisco or around the world for the specific internship placements. And it is a very collaborative process. So, of course, if you or your student has any questions about the process, they can always just call our office and we can update them on where the application is lodged. Or, of course, if the placement that we propose for the student is not a 100% accurate placement, we can, of course, set up another conversation. Now, in terms of placements themselves, for the pre-departure stage, we cannot actually release a list of companies that the student can work in. And this is because we do have to first coordinate visas with all of our host companies. That means that each and every student is going to have a visa that is going to be registered to their specific host company. So in terms of placements, we can only really place a student once they have confirmed with us that they are going to China. That means that they will find out around 2 or 1 month before the program start date. We will confirm a placement with our China teams. And of course, we'll be calling the students to inform them of the placements opportunities. And of course, if they do have questions about that placement, we'll hope to answer them in that phone call. Sometimes students do actually have to interview with their host company, but CRCC Asia takes pride in preparing the students for all of these interviews. This interview process is going to be a very casual Skype interview with one of our over 500 host company supervisors. And these supervisors, of course, all speak English. A lot of them are going to be expats, or they're going to be Chinese nationals who have studied extensively in the US, the UK, Australia, etc. In terms of airfare, we generally recommend students purchase airfare as soon as possible. However, we do also recommend students purchase travel insurance in case for whatever reason the visa does not go through. However, we do have a lot of success with the visas. In terms of the airfare itself, we have students flying into Shanghai Pudong International Airport in Shanghai. In terms of Shenzhen, we have students fly into the Hong Kong International Airport and then take a brief ferry ride over to Shenzhen, where our teams will meet all of the students on the ground. And then, of course, in Beijing, we do have students flying to the PEK Capital Beijing Airport. In terms of the documents we need for the pre-departure, of course, we do need a visa application sent through to our visa processing person in our Pennsylvania office. And we really handle all of the visas in-house, which means that for these visas, all the student has to worry about is answering some questions on an email, and we fill out the application for the student. So that means it's less of a headache, it's very easy, and we, of course, as part of the program tuition, do pay for all visa processing fees. So that means that we will be in touch with the students about passports, as well as passport scans and information just about the visa itself. And this is all before around a month before the program start date. In terms of on the ground in China, to give you a brief overview of our programs, all of our programs usually start on a Thursday. This means that each Thursday, we will pick the students up from the airport, and for these program start dates, we have people there with big CRCC Asia banners, and students are flying into the airport from usually 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. is when we recommend you purchase the student's flight. For the 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. flights, we will, of course, have program staff there who are waiting with other students to basically send the students directly to their accommodations. Once the students are in their accommodations, they have that evening to settle in and relax, and we, of course, arrange a small dinner for them that night. Then the next day, they wake up that Friday for a full orientation. During that orientation, we run them through how to use the subway system in the specific program locations. We also run them through understanding how to network in China, and of course, provide them with business cards as well. For the program management side, we do have 24/7 support and emergency care, which means that we do provide weekly check-ins, internship guidance, and we do have program managers who speak both Chinese and English. So for example, if a student is in a taxi and needs assistance, they can always just either WeChat or call our program managers, just because we also do provide cell phones. For the welcome and leaving activities, we also have the airport pickup and orientation, of course. We drop off students to their relevant host company once they are in China. So that means that the student doesn't have to worry about that first day of work. We actually coordinate with a supervisor to drop all of the students off at a specific start date. And then, of course, during the program itself, we do have networking and professional development events. We partner with the British Business Council as well as the American Chamber of Commerce to really expose students to people relevant within their industries. We also have a few cultural events, which include dumpling making or basically acrobatic and kung fu events, as well as some more informal events like KTV, which is the famous Chinese karaoke that a lot of our students are interested in. For the social events we put on, we also do require our students, on the right-hand side, you can see in this picture here, we require our students to complete community service learning opportunities. This is only going to be on a once-a-month basis, but students are required to go with our team to volunteer at basically the Migrant Laborers Children's Foundation. Now, if you're familiar with China at all, there are big cities that are being built by people who are from the countryside usually. And because of the Chinese system, there are a lot of students who do not have the best access to education if they don't live in the cities that their parents were born in. So because of that, there are a lot of disenfranchised youth who are living and going to school at schools that were set up specifically for migrant laborers. And we see that this really shows our students not just the glitzy and glamorous life of interning at a Fortune 500 or a Fortune 1000 company in China, but it also shows them the flip side of all of Chinese development currently. So in terms of arrival, what if my student can't find CRCC Asia team at the airport? We all are always available via email. So of course, all your student would have to do is just connect to any of the free Wi-Fi's available. And then they could just basically be connected to one of our staff members. We're also available via phone calls. So if you borrow a cell phone or if you have an international number, you can always use that. But in terms of contact, this is a bit more complicated just because China does block out some of the services that we take for granted in the US. So if you use Facebook regularly for communicating with your son or daughter, Facebook actually does not work in China. So we recommend using Skype just to talk with your students in China. And Skype actually has a call forwarding feature, which they can use to forward their calls through Skype to their cell phone, which we will provide a SIM card for while in China. In terms of living situations, CRCC Asia rents out service apartments for all of our students. These service apartments are extremely clean, they're extremely nice, and they're very centrally located to all of our internships. So students are only commuting around 30 to 45 minutes on public transportation to get to their relevant workplaces. They will be living with another CRCC Asia intern of the same gender, but that means they'll always have their own private bedroom. Usually they'll have either a double or full-size bed. And then, of course, they will have access to a kitchen, as well as washer dryers, as well as in some of our accommodations, they will have access to a gym and a pool. Sheets, of course, and towels are available from the hotel, and they are changed on a weekly basis because these are serviced apartments. But in general, these apartments and accommodations are above and beyond what most people expect from China. Here at CRCC Asia, we do see that some students are interested in doing homestays, as well as some dorm living situations, but we do feel more comfortable here setting students up in serviced apartments just so they feel like they have a home that they can go back to after a long day of work. In terms of safety, we do, of course, vet all of our host companies very intensively for health and safety. So that means that we make sure there's fire exits and fire extinguishers and first aid kits, as well as talk to the supervisors about action plans. In terms of the local hospitals, pharmacies, and police stations, we do have connections in China just because we've been operating there for so long. And our insurance company from Global Benefits Group has actually informed us of what specific hospitals we can take interns to if you do purchase insurance through CRCC Asia. The local hospitals, of course, are going to be speaking Chinese somewhat, as well as international clinics that do speak English. But if your student, for whatever reason, does have any problems or any difficulties medically, we'll, of course, be accompanying them for the hospital, and we're available 24/7. So just make sure the student is aware that they can always just contact a CRCC Asia team member. We also provide a welcome pack with the program manager's phone number and local consulate information, which means that if they do have any issues or any questions, they can always just text our program managers, who are there to basically help the students out in all ways. For health and safety in China, being street smart, of course, because you are still going to be in a foreign location, is recommended, and that includes, eating street food on a very irregular basis and knowing what you're eating, of course, but it also requires you to be aware of just your surroundings. So China actually is one of the safest places that I've ever lived. Right after college, I spent 2.5 years in China. And even though our office here is based in lovely San Francisco, I do always feel more comfortable walking around, at midnight in China rather than at midnight in San Francisco. And that's just because there are so many people in China, and there's also a very, very high government presence in China. So as long as the student is being smart, and as long as the student basically understands that they are in a foreign environment and legally eligible for all foreign laws, then none of our students have really had problems just in terms of safety at all. To avoid local scams, there are some scams that I can mention right off the bat that happened to me while I was in China. One of these are of course, prayer bead scams, where a monk will offer you prayer beads, and in return you will have to pay him to basically say a prayer for you. This, is at the discretion of the students. It usually is only $3 to $4, but that is sometimes a scam, as some of these monks are not actually monks on the street selling prayer beads. There are also other tourist scams that they have to be aware of, but in general, China is a very safe and welcoming place, and especially if you do know the Chinese language, people will always be impressed that your student has worked to basically understand and start speaking Chinese. Now, what if your student gets sick or has a medical emergency in China? So as common protocol, we do have incident report forms that are going to be filled out within basically 24 hours within the incident. And this means our program management staff will be informing our end over here in the San Francisco office, and we'll of course be reaching out to the next of kin, which means parents in most cases, for basically either permission or just basically to understand a little bit more about what's going on, and just to fill the parents in on what's going on. And of course, we'll be in constant contact with the student from our end, just to make sure that there's nothing happening. In terms of natural disasters, we do have very intensive risk assessment and risk management plans, just so that we mitigate any disasters or unforeseen risks while in China. And we do actually have our students purchase travel insurance, which does include evacuation insurance as well. Now, in terms of the insurance itself, what kind of insurance should I purchase for my students? Usually universities do have study abroad insurance for specific students. However, here at CRCC Asia, we also have an agreement with Compass Benefits and the Global Benefits Group here to offer CRCC Asia students our own insurance, which are basically custom tailored for our programs. And this means that you will be getting the best deal through CRCC Asia's travel insurance, and that can just be purchased online. Or you can speak with the Compass representative who oversees CRCC Asia as well. Last but not least, is China safe? China in general is one of the safest environments to live in. There are going to be, of course, problems with drinking water from the tap if your student is not used to certain bacteria in their system. So we generally recommend all students drink bottled water. And in terms of pollution, especially for Beijing, it's only usually in the winter that it does get very bad. And of course, we do stay up to date and relevant with all of the information we're sending our students. So that means if, for whatever reason, the Chinese government, or even if we feel that a student's health or safety is at risk because of either pollution or any other environmental disaster, we'll of course be informing the student and be with them 24/7, just making sure that everything will be fine. In terms of safety in China in general, China is a very safe location, as I was saying before. Like I was saying, I feel much safer in China than I do here, and it's not uncommon to see people basically at all times in the streets in China, and they're just going about their normal lives. Even if it's midnight and everything, you'll still have shops that are open, and of course there are always going to be police that are going to be in the area. In Shanghai and Beijing, there are always going to be police that do speak English on every corner. So that means that you'll always have someone to turn to if you feel uncomfortable or unsafe in any way. And of course, if you can always call our program managers if the student feels that their health or safety is at risk. So in terms of the host companies, we currently do work with over 500 host companies. However, these are host companies that we've been onboarding for many years. So that means we've actually had to train these host companies to host Western interns. So we do always provide an English-speaking supervisor. We make sure the location is very convenient for our students to get to on public transportation. And in terms of a safe environment, we make sure that everyone in the company that we are sending interns to knows that this is a professional development experience for all of our students. So that means that we'll always have someone overseeing them directly, which is their supervisor, and we check in with the supervisor on a weekly basis just to make sure that the intern is doing well. And we also do check in with the intern on a weekly basis to make sure that everything is going well from their end as well. We also do provide the service of custom tailoring a job description. As some of you are probably aware, China is a very hierarchical society, which comes from traditional Confucian values. However, here at CRCC Asia, we do understand that students are basically going on this program to gain some professional development and business acumen experience, which means that we really work with our host companies to custom tailor each and every job description to all of our applicants, which means if an applicant is interested in working on a specific project or a specific role, or even just improving specific skills, we at CRCC Asia will be working with our business development teams to make sure that the supervisor is aware of this. In terms of host company development initiatives, we do give out a full handbook and checkpoint guidelines, which basically form intern action plans for all host companies who are hosting our interns. This means that the supervisor is going to be directly responsible for providing a very solid internship experience. And then we also do have host company awards nights, which basically reward companies for hosting interns and also giving them a reward for having a great internship program. A lot of the time, CRCC Asia has actually trained companies on how to host internal interns, especially from the West, just because it is a very different cultural background. Every student is going to be assigned to a business development manager, and this business development manager basically checks in with these host companies on a bi-weekly basis just to make sure that the supervisor is clear with the students and to make sure, of course, that the student is completing the relevant work. We also do have an annual and new company training seminar in which, when we're vetting host companies and onboarding them, we make sure that they are aware that this is going to be a largely professional development experience. Now, in terms of tasks, most parents are, of course, worried that their student is going to be going to China and not working on anything. We do like to stress here at CRCC Asia that this is a full-time position. This is going to be a full-time job from 9 to 5, 5 days a week. So the tasks the students are going to be required to do vary depending on their sector. For example, if an engineer is going to Shenzhen and working in electrical engineering, we've had a placement called Harwar Aviation Technologies, which basically has interns designing and drawing up CAD designs for UADs, so unmanned aerial drones. So that might be a task for an engineering student, but for a finance student, we have students reviewing portfolios, as well as doing data and market analysis, basically doing financial analysis within China. For other placements, such as media and creative industries, we've placed students in documentary filmmaking crews. We've also placed students for a general business scenario. We've placed students on business development roles, which includes some marketing, but also some market analysis and research. If the student does not like their placement, here at CRCC Asia, we do take all of these comments very seriously. So that means that we will, of course, reach out to our business development team to go and talk to the supervisor if the student is not enjoying their experience, to see what we can change. If the student does require to be replaced, we can actually replace a student, which generally takes 7 business days. However, our first line here is we usually recommend that the student set up a time with their supervisor to speak, because usually the supervisor is going to be very understanding of the concerns or the questions that the student may have. And of course, they'll be assigning the proper work after that. What kind of company will my student be placed with? CRCC Asia works with a broad range of companies, which includes small domestic Chinese companies to large multinational companies. It generally depends on the student's past experience with what exact type of company they're going to. So if a student has had plenty of finance background and finance industry knowledge, etc., then of course they can be working in a Fortune 500 or Fortune 1000 company in China, such as the Pacific Asset Management brand. However, if a student is a finance student who does not have as much finance background, then we'll of course be finding them a finance placement, but it might be more in a more analyst or portfolio review role instead of doing some more higher level finance. And this is just because, just like getting a normal job, we cannot force or entice any host companies to hire our students. But in general, the companies that we work with, every single company is aware that this is going to be a professional development experience. And of course, we do work with some larger multinational companies if you or your student do care mostly about the names of these companies. In terms of commute, like I was saying before, commute only takes 30 to 45 minutes usually. If the commute is going to be longer than an hour, we generally do check in with the student beforehand to make sure that they would be comfortable and willing to move ahead. But in terms of commute times, all of this is going to be taking place on public transportation. So public transportation, as I'm sure you're aware, in China is extremely convenient and extremely cheap. So it's around a 3 to 4 renminbi trip on each trip for either Shanghai, Beijing, or Shenzhen subways, which is the equivalent of around $1 or $2 US. In terms of the companies themselves, students are going to be, of course, having their own desk, and the supervisor will, of course, be setting them up with a coworker that's going to oversee all aspects of the students' programs. Here are some of the program overviews that we go over. We have a post-program key component as well, which is annual alumni and networking events, access to LinkedIn and job postings and CRCC Asia Alum Network. We do have campus ambassador opportunities for students who have gone on our programs and then are going to be coming back after the program is finished. We also do have a monthly alumni newsletter to let our students know about any job opportunities within either CRCC Asia or some of our relevant host companies. And then we also give them a USB loaded with tips for social networking and for job hunting. In terms of the entrepreneurship and social responsibility funds, here at CRCC Asia, we do value any student who basically makes China into their career. So that means every year we give around 10,000 US dollars to students who are looking to start up their own company. And we'll, of course, provide the support and the consultation services needed for students who are looking to, start their own entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial endeavor that deals with China. And a lot of our program alumni have been doing great things. So an example of this is we just had a program alumni who just founded a nonprofit in Shenzhen, linking up Chinese women and American women to basically act as a mentoring relationship for people who want to get into the business world. We also do partner with Chinese business associations. And in the US, in California, specifically in our office in San Francisco, we also do run the China-US Entrepreneurship Club, which our students are constantly aware of, which is a great way to network with industry professionals. And we constantly run events with the Asia Society, as well as some more well-known nonprofits here in San Francisco. Preparing your student. I know it must be scary trying to send a student over to China, especially because China traditionally in American culture has always been the other, and basically the place that is very the complete opposite of the US. But in general, preparing for China is very simple. Any appropriate vaccinations, usually we just require everyone to be up to date on tetanus boosters. If your student is looking to travel afterwards to Southwest China, especially Southeast Asia, we do recommend hepatitis shots. But overall, the appropriate vaccinations would just be a conversation with your general practitioner. But we really say that for our students, we want them to be as independent as possible, just because this internship is going to be an independent experience for them. They will be living in a foreign country and they will be required to go to work every day. So that means that we really like contacting the students instead of parents when it comes to just the pre-departure information. For packing, of course, we do offer washers as well as irons. And then, of course, in China, they will be required to wear professional attire. So that means that the students should pack either, work suits or pants or slacks or blouses, just something more formal so that the students can network and show up to their first day of work looking extremely professional. Most of our internship placements do actually have business casual attire, but of course, it's always good to have some more formal attire. To plan ahead, you should always make sure what you want, and then you want to basically make sure that you are aligning with their best interests. And then, of course, you're going to be setting up channels of communication. As I said earlier, there is a great firewall in China, which makes communication through some normal platforms in the US, like Facebook, fairly difficult. But students are basically instructed that if they want to be using Facebook or anything like that, they can always purchase a virtual private network, a VPN, so to say. And this VPN will allow them to connect to Western sites as well as Western social media websites. If your student is looking to call you, we generally recommend using either Skype or WeChat call. WeChat is a Chinese data messaging service that has expanded into the US, and it's extremely convenient and it's free. So if you have a smartphone, you can always just download that WeChat app and it works fail-proof in China. In terms of the next steps, so all you would have to do for the student to apply would just to be applying online for the program. But if you are interested specifically for your specific student and want to learn more, we can always set up advising sessions with our local offices here to talk to either parents or students just about the programs in general and about our expectations for interns on the program, as well as hope to answer any questions about the program. We also do have a resources page under the parents. If you go to crccasia.com, you would just go onto the resources tab. We do have an entire page for parents with useful links and tips for parents to review. And then, of course, we do have past testimonials from all of our previous interns and universities and other parents. If you're interested, we can also sign you up for the monthly newsletter mailing list, which has some relevant information about China and keeps you up to date with what's going on in China. And you can also review our media coverage. CRCC Asia has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, China Daily, the New York Times, all of these different publications that really say that our program is allowing students to really get their fullest, reach their fullest potential by going to China. I only see one viewer here, but if you do have any questions, feel free to ask. All you'd have to do is just type that into the sidebar. But if there are no other questions, I look forward to inviting either your son or daughter to the program. Hope you're well, and if you do have any other questions, feel free to check in with us. And our number in the San Francisco office, which you can call anytime, is 415-243-0968. We are open 9 to 6 Pacific Standard Time, and we'll always have an advisor who will be available to answer questions. Thank you.